Hey, we are live. Thank you for joining us on today's live stream. Welcome to the Opportunity Zones podcast. I'm Jimmy Atkinson, founder of Opportunity DB and OZ Insiders. It is year 6 of Opportunity Zones. Can you believe that? The marketplace has matured a lot over the years. Now, industry best practices, they're still being formed, but more or less have reached a point of stability. And whether you're a brand new beginner to Opportunity Zones, or you're a seasoned veteran who's been here since the early days, whether you're an entrepreneur, a real estate developer, or project sponsor, or fund manager, and you're looking at Opportunity Zones as a great way to raise equity from investors, or maybe you're an investor looking for deals to invest in, or perhaps you're an Opportunity Zone professional, maybe an accountant or an attorney like Ashley here. We are here today to provide you with updates on the Opportunity Zones industry and some tips for navigating the OZ industry, no matter which camp you may fall into. My guests and I have developed membership groups for 3 different by Ashley Tyson of OZ Pros and OZ Ascent. And also joining the show today is Chris Cooley of Ozworks Group. Gentlemen, we had some technical difficulties. We got them all ironed out. We're starting just a few minutes late. Sorry for everybody who's been waiting, but gents, thanks for joining the show today. Really great to have both of you here.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here as always, Jimmy. I love doing whether it's a recorded podcast or certainly live. We've had some great times over the literally the 6 years that we've been doing this OZ thing. And so it's an honor and a privilege to be here today talking about like how the different groups or how they've evolved and kind of what they're doing and who they're serving. So super stoked about that. It's always great to share the stage with you and now with Chris Cooley too.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys just letting me tag along,
Good stuff, gentlemen. Well, to start us off, love to get a quick intro from each of you, and then I'm going to introduce myself as well. How did you get into Opportunity Zones, and what is OZ Pros and your group, which is OZ Ascent?
So it's funny because I met Jimmy back at the Las Vegas Opportunity Zone conference. That they used to have what do they call them? They call them, it wasn't get-togethers. It was like the
OZ Expo.
OZ Expo. That's right. And I met Jimmy at the, like literally in the cocktails afterwards. And we started talking about different items and what he was doing within the monetization of his podcast. And so we kind of cooked up this concept where we were going to create the legal Zoom for Opportunity Zones, and thus OZ Pros was born. And it was a fantastic, right? We figured out real fast that it was tough to let folks do it themselves. And so we spawned this whole process which basically became the business of OZ Pros, of providing advisory services for folks and kind of full service advisory work for them to be able to put together their own captive opportunity funds. And kind of along the way, we created this strategy call process, and we figured out that folks needed some ongoing assistance with their compliance stuff. And that's what led to the creation of Ascent and utilizing Ascent as a method for how folks, once they use our program to get set up, can utilize Ascent in order to stay on top of, just different stuff, that's going on, like getting specific compliance questions answered on their deals. And that's literally what we created Ascent for, was to handle compliance for folks.
That's great. Now I want to dive into OZ Ascent throughout the course of the podcast today. We'll also be talking about my new group, OZ Insiders, and the group that we helped form with Chris Cooley a few years back, Ashley, which was Ozworks Group. Chris Cooley seems to have dropped off the stream. One thing we didn't do for Chris is we didn't get him a good stable internet connection, I guess. But couple things that I can interject during this live TV segment here before we get to Chris. We'll wait for him to get back. Andy Hagens, my co-founder at OZ Insiders, did chime in with a comment. Technical difficulties are just part of the fun of live TV. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying the fun we're having here today. He also mentioned that we're the OZ Dream Team. Couldn't disagree with that. So thanks, Andy, for watching. By the way, if anybody does have any comments, if you have questions for me or Ashley or Chris, you just want to chime in, go ahead and chime in with a comment. We'll get it on the screen. Jake is excited for this. Thanks, Jake, for being here today. Emily said, "Hey, y'all."
Let me kind of go ahead and talk about the like what Chris and give it maybe a little bit of a lead in based upon kind of the history of formation. Is that we originally formed Ozworks Group to be kind of an entry point for folks that are trying to get base information. And so inside of, OZ Pros and ultimately inside of Ascent, we had folks that were, I guess, a little bit more into where they're like, okay, I've got a deal. I've got, I've got my own capital gain, or I know exactly kind of how I'm going to go about going after that capital gain. Like if I'm going to bring investors in. And those folks kind of, I guess, fit more into Ascent and into the package that we had put together to service folks that knew what they were going to do. But there were a bunch of people that were, I don't want to call them tire kickers, but they were trying to get more intro level information. They're like, okay, do opportunity zones work for maybe the context of like what we're doing? And I need some more basic information. That's why we created Ozworks Group. And it was a kind of a very wide base for folks that are wanting to get intro level stuff. We put it on Mighty Networks platform and then created lots of different, resources and educational content inside of that. It's more, I think, beginner focused. And then as you kind of decide what you're going to do, you can, if you ultimately pull the trigger, step into Ascent. And I think it fits in nicely, right, to be the beginner entry point where I'm maybe the 401 point when they've decided and they're going and they're rocking and rolling with their deal and they've got the specific questions. Man, I've been taking Chris's thunder about, intro and like why we did it. And I'll turn that over to you, like the history of creating Ozworks Group and what you guys are doing now.
Sorry, guys.
Emily chimed in and said Ozworks Group members, I think is what she was referring to as we or them. We call them OZ Curious. Kind of a funny one there. Emily, thanks for chiming in. Chris, over to you. Ashley gave a little bit of an intro to Ozworks Group, but would love to learn more about who is Chris Cooley, how did you learn about OZs, and give us a little bit more scoop on Ozworks Group and the end of the marketplace that it is designed for.
Yeah, sweet. Thanks, guys. If there's one thing I am, it's resourceful. So multiple browsers, multiple devices trying to get into this thing. Anyway, I remember when you guys kind of teed this up and, my background in building collaborative physical workspaces, like the application was always sort of a vision of mine is to like take it all online, take all the best practices from co-working spaces and things that I was working on. And that's how Ashley and I crossed paths, was doing a project with UNC and working with an innovation center that they were creating. And, it's like I was learning about OZs through my clients. And when you guys called me, I remember you kind of asked me to build LinkedIn in like 3 weeks and for like, I don't know, $3,000 or something like that. And I said, no. But yeah, no, it's one of those things that I dreamed about and then realized
I wanted a job board, Chris, right?
Yeah.
I wanted, and it wasn't LinkedIn. It was more like Upwork. I was like, hey, dude, let's be the Upwork for opportunity zones.
Yeah. I saw it as like a LinkedIn thing, but no, it was really cool. I mean, working with you guys to create this resource, I know in the beginning, it was kind of a catch-all. There wasn't really a place for the practitioners or deals and people to connect and be connected to learn more about this. I mean, we could say, I guess that was more of an infant mode, right, for the industry. And I think what's really cool is now that things have evolved and you've got an opportunity to educate more people still. That's really where we come in. I think where Emily was saying, OZ Curious people, Jimmy, you and I talked about consolidating. And what we've done is we've really consolidated our membership into one track and synced up with Ashley and OZ Pros to be able to help people make a decision really quickly as to whether this is going to work for them or not, and then have them have an access point to kind of hang out and understand it a bit more, get some peace of mind, and then get connected to a group like OZ Pros that we've partnered with that can actually execute really quickly and do it efficiently and without having a whole lot of stress, and with tools and templates that can and people that can get it done. So yeah, that's the evolution of things. But I mean, without you guys, I'm not here, and I'm not in OZs, and I don't have an investment, and I don't have a mechanism. So I have major gratitude for all that, and it's exciting to see and know that we've all shaped and now created a place for very specific types of people. Jimmy, especially, your group, I think fills that middle ground that we were trying to sort of create a net for and a place for, knowing that now we don't have to be everything to everyone. And it's nice to know that we can all collaborate and sync up on that.
No, it's great, Chris. Thanks for that. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming back. I'm glad we got your tech difficulties sorted out.
Yes.
You look and sound great.
Cool.
I'll introduce myself briefly as well, in case there may be some people here who may be unfamiliar with me. I know you guys each sent this to your own personal network. So I'm Jimmy Atkinson. I founded Opportunity DB, the Opportunity Zones database, in 2018. And Opportunity DB is the leading educational resource and marketplace for learning about Opportunity Zone investments and actually making Opportunity Zone investments. We also have resources for those who are looking to raise equity from Opportunity Zone investors. Now, I later helped form OZ Pros with Ashley, as Ashley mentioned, and eventually also helped to form Ozworks Group with Ashley and Chris, as Ashley and Chris just mentioned. Just in the last few months, I formed OZ Insiders. It's my brand new Opportunity Zones mastermind group. It sits kind of in a different place than Ozworks Group and OZ Ascent. We're not really structured for the beginner. We're more the advanced person or professional. And Ashley's group is great if you're looking for compliance and technical guidance. We launched this group, OZ Insiders, in November of 2023, just a couple of months ago. We already have about 35 members in the group right now. At OZ Insiders, as I mentioned, our members are advanced, high performers, high-performing Opportunity Zone professionals and investors, or super investors, I like to call them. And essentially, we help get them access to our network, and so they can stay in the know on key Opportunity Zone trends and emerging news. So I want to discuss these three groups in more detail throughout the show today. But first, I don't know, I kind of wanted to zoom out a minute. The title of this episode, I titled it Navigating the Opportunity Zones Industry. So maybe we can get thoughts from both of you on what is the current state of the Opportunity Zones industry, or how would you characterize it at this moment in time as we sit here early January 2024, and we're now less than 3 years away from the deferral date of December 31, 2026, when this program sunsets. Ashley, I'll turn to you first. Get your high-level thoughts on the state of the OZ industry.
I think that there still remains, number one, a lot of people that don't know about it, which is shocking to me. And that even inside of people that maybe have heard about it, a lot of misinformation, that they think that it's timed out, that it's, that it's no longer something that's viable. And both of those, I directly try to correct those misconceptions whenever I get the opportunity to do so. And, we still have 3 years of runway of being able to get capital gains into opportunity funds. And hopefully that we'll see some extension, right? We'll see some legislation that gets passed. There's currently pending legislation. Who knows as to whether they're going to be able to pull that off to get that done before kind of that April 30th deadline for this year. I think the chances are slim to middling that it happens during an election year. If it doesn't, I think that more than likely we're probably going to see definitely, regardless of the election outcome, I think that we'll see something happen, because both sides of the aisle, right? This legislation is bicameral, bipartisan, and we're probably going to see something happen. And I think that that's a lot of what folks are waiting on. Now, with that being said, when it gets extended, I think it's going to make OZ deals and OZ property, I think it's going to cause it to, to substantially increase, right? To really take a tick up. And so the smart folks that are inside of the industry are still out there trying to grab, the deals that they can and try to get deals done. I will say that it's been, that things have kind of flipped on their head relative to like what was getting funded at the beginning versus what is getting funded now. Everybody was doing multifamily deals when this thing's first started, and multifamily deals have become kind of pariah just because of the difficulty in getting debt funding out there, and the difficulty in getting debt funding for just kind of aggregate deals, which has led to more folks utilizing the program as a way and a method to justify needing more equity in deals. And so I'd say that the state of the industry is that people have figured out how to use OZs as a play to kind of mitigate what's happened in the economy relative to debt markets and debt, there's loan to value amounts going down. So it's been pretty cool to see how folks have done that. And what's been really cool is to see how many actual impact deals are being done out there, and especially now that those are the ones that are getting attention.
Great thoughts, Ashley. Thanks for your insights. Chris, turn to you. You got a little bit different perspective than Ashley does. You're not an attorney doing boring attorney stuff all day long. You're a community builder.
I don't know, man. I was just in Ascent, and it was anything but boring today.
I'm just giving Ashley a hard time. You know that.
Yeah, for sure.
We love you, Ashley. Hey, but Chris, what are your thoughts on the OZ industry? How it's evolved since you came into play in the last few years, and how would you characterize it as we sit here at the beginning of 24?
Yeah, I think I do have a different perspective, being an entrepreneur and being like sort of adjacent to real estate through my co-working and shared office space days. As an entrepreneur, I think what Ashley mentioned about education is really important. Most entrepreneurs are not teed up to like understand tax incentives. Where real estate, it's an all day, every day play in the overall structure of the business entity and like how the deal works. So I think one of the things that I found really challenging is helping to explain to entrepreneurs why this is a big deal, right? And so, startup companies wanting to keep the lights on and make revenue is priority number one. But to say, hey, think long term about exiting and how you're going to grow this business and scale it, is something that I think has been really amazing to start to educate people on and get them to understand. So that's one of the ways that I've sort of still, like Ashley said, educating people is still a challenge on getting the word out. So I appreciate, Jimmy, everything that you've been doing to get that word out from day one. And, the other thing is that I don't know if you're seeing this as well, but it feels to me, and through my conversations, we've got, just look today, we've got 429 members in Osworks Group across the country. And I think a lot of that is people who have maybe through the early news about this, when it was forefront of the news cycles and there were headlines about opportunity zones, that people got really interested and curious and excited. And then it kind of became a split, right? The people who could understand it and had a knowledge of tax and planning and how that can be part of a long-term generational wealth plan really leaned in and found people like Ashley and started to do it. And then the media kind of lost track of the headline, and then the interest goes away. And the people who are sort of standing on the sidelines going, hey, I wish I could know more about this. It's like, maybe I just won't do it, right? So you have now a sort of split where I think we have an opportunity to really educate people more so now that we've got these different groups, right? To say, if you're beginning, start here. Once you hit the middle ground or your service provider and you want to get into the network like you have, Jimmy, where it's exchanging ideas, right? Go there. And then if you really want to execute on this stuff, go to OZ Pros, right? So I think that's what I've seen in the evolution, at least from my perspective, and not being in the nuts and bolts of it on a daily basis of the legal part and the CPA part. Now, at the same time, we set up Osworks Group as a QOZB. So I do know a lot about compliance because it falls on my shoulders to do that.
You were asking a question today, as a matter of fact, in Ascent, got that thing nailed down.
Exactly. Within 2 seconds, right? I literally was here's my spreadsheet. Here's what we're doing. What do I need to do based on this? Right. And so, yeah, it's really cool that we all kind of can wear different hats and inspire and educate different types of people. I look forward to doing that more now that we're recalibrating and making it a much more streamlined process for people who are stepping into this.
Oh, that's great, Chris. I want to talk more about Ascent and Osworks Group in a moment. I'll give my thoughts on the state of the industry. I'm gonna focus on the marketplace and transaction volume primarily. By the way, I think we're talking about basically three different types of big stakeholder buckets that all three of our groups can service. I mean, one bucket is folks who are leveraging opportunity zones as a way to raise more equity for their business or real estate project that falls within an opportunity zone. Opportunity zone's great tool to raise that part of the capital stack, to get some to offer your investors some additional value through the opportunity zone incentive, right? And then, we've got the investors themselves, high net worth investors, family offices, ultra wealthy, but also the folks that represent them, primarily advisors, RIAs. If you trigger a capital gain in real estate, you could do a 1031, but you could also do an opportunity zone, which has some interesting flavor to it that's a little bit different than 1031s. If you generate a gain outside of real estate through stock market investing or private business transaction, you don't really have any other option other than opportunity zones if you want to defer capital gains. Then the third group is service providers. If you're an accountant or an attorney or any other type of professional consultant within the industry, industry best practices, staying on top of trends and staying in the know on what's going on with opportunity zones. All three of our groups can help with that. Anyways, I'm going to share my take on state of the opportunity zones marketplace very briefly. By the way, I cover this in a special 2024 episode of the Opportunity Zones podcast, which is going to be released later this week. But essentially, 2023 was a down year compared to past years, 2022 especially, and a couple reasons why. M&A transaction volume was sharply down last year. According to a recent report from S&P Global Insights, total M&A transaction volume is down 32% year over year. Real estate transaction volume was also sharply down. Even worse, according to CBRE, U.S. commercial real estate investment volume fell by 54% year over year. So a lot fewer capital gains are getting triggered. Now, as a result, we see a lot less OZ investment year over year. Novogradac does a great job of tracking the industry. Their data for Q4 of 2023 is not yet available. It'll probably become available later this month or early next month. But if you compare the first 3 quarters of 22 to that same time period in 23, equity raising by opportunity zone funds was down sharply year over year, down 62%, unfortunately. Now, I do think there's some good news on the horizon. The S&P 500 is up near record highs. It was up nearly 25% just last year in 2023. It ended just a fraction of a percentage point away from an all-time high. So if you're a stock market investor, I believe now more than ever before, OZs can be a very attractive option for those with highly appreciated equity portfolios. I'll go into more detail on that on my podcast later this week. But that's basically, I think that's a pretty good recap, state of the industry. We all covered slightly different perspectives there. I wanted to turn back now toward our 3 different groups. So I'll pose this question to each of us. I guess it's a 2-part question. Who is in your group? Who's a typical person who's in your group? And how do you help them? Like, what is the format of the group, essentially? Ashley, we can start with you first.
Yeah, so the format's really easy. Think of it as like office hours, right? So it's 10 to 11:30 every Tuesday. And it's on Zoom and through Ozworks Group. So we administer Ascent through Ozworks Group. And so it's basically kind of like it's like another tier that you can get into via Ozworks Group. And so all of the recordings are contained on there. It's one easy access point where you can go in and you can ask questions inside of the feed. You can direct message me, and all of the recordings that have all of the questions are available in one easy to access location and one easy to search location. And so it becomes a repository for being able to get that information out and get it fairly readily. And the folks that are in Ascent are typically people that have done, I'd say that probably 80% of them are folks that have utilized us to form their captive QOF, where they're either doing their own deal or they're raising money. So for folks that are trying to raise money and they are doing an opportunity zone deal and they need, specific questions about how they're conducting their business, then we've got those folks in there. So I've got mixed use developers. I've got a bunch of storage developers. I got a bunch of RV park developers. We've got a bunch of folks that are doing kind of their own real estate deals that are looking for solar guidance, that kind of thing. And so we will get deep into the kind of the technical questions about how you make those things work, both within opportunity zones, but then also on a bigger kind of tax mitigation scale. And so we're bringing additional tax mitigation strategies to the table inside of that and expanding it into more of kind of a, I guess, kind of a tax mitigation think tank, if you will. And so that's and so we've got individuals that have $200,000 of gain that have done their own deal. And then we've got funds that are raising $20 million. And so it kind of runs the gamut between that. I'd say the lion's share of folks are investors and people that have their own money and have their own gains. And then they are either doing their own deals or looking to it's usually a combination where they're doing their own deals and they're looking to put money to work into other deals as well.
That's great. Well, thanks, Ashley, for your insights on OZ Pros and OZ Ascent. Chris, I'm going to give the mic to you, but first we did have a comment come in from Taylor. Taylor wants to know, what memberships does Ozworks Group offer? So maybe you can also include that in your answer. But essentially, who is in Ozworks Group? What's a typical member look like? How do you help that person? What's the format, and what different membership levels are available?
Yeah, so I look at it like an entry point, right? So we have two different, Taylor, thanks for the question. We have two different memberships. We had a lot more, but we've really consolidated. So we have a freemium membership, which is access to a lot of different best tools that we've found, like warp speed tools. So there's a structure inside of there that just says step 1, start here, step 2, step 3, and just this information is available in other places, but we just wanted to create a really clear structure for it. And then the next tier up is a $39 a month membership. So we wanted to make something really affordable and accessible that doesn't have any long-term commitments. There's only monthly options. But who's in there? I mean, Jimmy, there's some crossover, right? I mean, there's people who facilitate, experts that are in our community that are also crossing over into your OZ Insiders group. And I think it's really cool that people can take steps. I mean, we just wanted to create a ladder that people could climb quickly and effectively, right, before they really make a commitment to opportunity zones. Our goal was to help people find out if it makes sense for them. And so I look at Ozworks Group like a co-working space. You guys know my background was in creating those types of organizations and structures. And so the freemium is like a free tour, right? Come check out the co-working space, see if you vibe with everyone, and wow, here's some great information to get me to the next step. The next membership is like a hot desk, right? If you're familiar with that, you get to hang out, participate in different events that we have. We have 4 different Zoom events that happen on a reoccurring schedule. One is about real estate, one is about compliance, one is just general strategy. So there's no dumb questions, you just bring them. And another one that we're going to be implementing in 2024 is a networking event. So just like a co-working space, once a month you get to mingle with anybody who's a member. Like I mentioned, there's 429 members as of right now. But yeah, I mean, the Ashley would basically be an OZ Pros, like the anchor tenant on the 3rd floor that takes up the whole 3rd floor, right? They're like the Apple in when WeWork was a thing, right? There's a bunch of big companies that have really, really deep knowledge and are doing really amazing things. And so there's an opportunity to cross paths with those folks inside of our community as well, even as beginners. So everybody who's a member will be able to access those networking events. It's going to be kind of like speed dating, where we just do rapid fire breakout rooms and you get to meet people and share ideas. And so yeah, I mean, I think that sort of parallel makes a lot of sense, just even given my background, but it's really meant to be an affordable and accessible way in to opportunity zones so that people can, learn and get excited about it and then take action, like to move forward and execute. So that's what we're all about, man.
Perfect. That's a good segue into OZ Insiders, which I'll talk about now for a couple minutes. We're a little bit less affordable, maybe less accessible, you could say. Our membership we offer one membership tier. It's $299 per month. We also have an annual plan that costs $3,000 per year. Our members, as I mentioned before, are high-performing Opportunity Zone professionals and investors. It's meant to be more of an advanced group, which is part Opportunity Zone's community, part we serve as connectors to help you get a shortcut to get to where you need to go, to help you advance your Opportunity Zone strategy to the next level, and also part educational experience where we do our monthly meetings and monthly masterminds. So I'll tell you briefly what you get when you join OZ Insiders. You first get access to our Rolodex. We've been leaders in the Opportunity Zone space since 2018. I think we have just about the most extensive Rolodex in the industry, rivaling Ashley's at least. Ashley's one of the people in our Rolodex we point people to the most often. We basically can help connect you to the right people depending on what you need. We've already done this with multiple folks who have joined our group recently. I did a strategy call a few weeks ago with Doug in California. He's building retail centers in Central and Northern California. We helped get him plugged into some attorneys to help structure his Opportunity Zones deal. We're also currently working with Tess and Brian in Arizona. They're putting together their Monterey Globe project, which is a beautiful, beautiful project. They just got approval from the city council to proceed with that development. So great milestone they're clearing there. And we're helping advise them on getting their pitch deck together and getting them plugged into the legal experts that they need to help move the ball down the field. We also have interactive monthly meetings and master classes, whereas Ashley's meetings are every week. Ours are only once a month. So a little bit less frequently. We meet once a month via Zoom. We just had our January meeting yesterday. That meeting is a chance for all of us to get together, share ideas, and it also features a master class. You're going to learn from the leading professionals in the Opportunity Zones industry on subjects like how to structure OZ deals, which is the presentation that Ashley gave to our group in December. Andrew Daup just gave our presentation yesterday on Opportunity Zone private placement memoranda and subscription docs. That was a really fun workshop that Andy Higgins helped to run with Andrew yesterday. We're also going to cover legislative and regulatory news and other key emerging trends. Our meeting for next month, by the way, our upcoming masterclass schedule can be found at ozinsiders.com/calendar if you want to see what's on the agenda. But just to quickly run you through what we're cooking up in our next few months here, our February masterclass on February 12th will be on the topic of Opportunity Zones legislation. Shay Hawkins will be the presenter there. Shay helped draft the initial legislation as a member of Senator Tim Scott's office way back when, I think 2015, 2016, 2017, those years he was working on that before it got pushed through as part of the TCJA at the end of 2017. Shay is now the president of the Opportunity Funds Association, which is a very large trade organization for qualified opportunity funds. So we're really pleased to have Shay lend his insights into what's going on with Opportunity Zones legislation, when it may pass, what it's going to look like. Our March masterclass, I'm going to be teaching on the topic of raising Opportunity Zone equity. So if you are using Opportunity Zones as a way to raise equity from investors, I'll have some insights there for you. Our April masterclass will be on the topic of diligencing Opportunity Zone deals. So our presenter there is still to be determined. We're going to probably make that announcement next week. But this one's going to be aimed at investors. And essentially, it'll teach those investors what should you look for before you sink money into an Opportunity Zone deal through your own QOF, or before you write a check to a QOF if you're investing as an LP. All of our master classes, our meetings are available on demand in a library for our members. Just log in through ozinsiders.com into your dashboard. One other thing you're going to get, by the way, is access to the community of high performers. All of our members kind of get access to one another, right? Our entire OZ Insiders community through our private Slack chat group and our in-person events. We're going to have our first in-person event. It'll be a dinner in Dallas, Texas on March 11th. And then essentially you get 24/7 access to our private chat group on the Slack app where you can ask our fellow members or myself or Andy any questions that you may have. So that's a brief recap of all three of our different groups there. Gentlemen, I think we're probably running a little bit low on time here. We could keep going for a few more minutes. I see we do have quite a few questions actually, so maybe we can spend some time getting to these questions, and then we'll get some URLs from each of you before we sign off. But let's see if I can get this one here. Well, first of all, just a nice comment from Brad. I'll just put that up on the screen while I kind of read through the rest of these. But Brad says, kudos to all of you for sharing your wisdom. Well done. Thank you, Brad, for joining. Brad's been a great friend of mine, industry OZ friend for the last few years, and really appreciate his support. Shasta asks, what OZ programs would you advise for newbies to get additional insight on the OZ marketplace? I'll field that one first, and then Ashley and Chris, if I miss anything, feel free to chime in. But there's a few different programs that I like. So this isn't just a shameless plug for all of my stuff. I'll first refer you to the Novogradac Opportunity Zones Resource Center. You can find that at novoco.com, or just do a search for Novogradac, Novogradac, Opportunity Zones Resource Center. They have a list of funds on their website, and they have a lot of great resources there. Now, for all of my stuff, we have a listing of over 100 different Opportunity Zone funds that are currently raising equity on our website at opportunitydb.com. Just click funds in the top nav. That'll show you what the marketplace actually looks like. We also do a live online event which showcases a number of different Opportunity Zone funds. It essentially forms the marketplace for Opportunity Zone funds 3 times a year. That event is called OZ Pitch Day. You can learn more about that by heading to ozpitchday.com. Ashley, Chris, what did I miss? What other programs would you advise for newbies to get additional insight on the OZ marketplace?
Chris, take it away, man.
I mean, I always look at a question and then ask more questions, right? So I think I would ask what types of programs are you looking for? What are you looking to achieve, right? You talk about advisory, Jimmy, and just the dialogue between us. Is this something that you want to bring back to the community? Are you looking to make a deal happen, for yourself? Do you have property in an OZ? There's a lot of things that I could unpack based on this question, so I don't mean to dance around it, but I would say post a question or an additional question or more insight into the comments in this thread of this podcast, and we can respond or point in other directions. But these questions are where these groups, like Jimmy mentioned, this Slack channel, we have a platform inside of our community where you can ask questions and interact, and that's what it's meant to be. It's like ask deeper questions and get to the bottom of what you really want to achieve through the programs, because there's a lot of stuff that we can point you to, right? So
and to that end, I mean, and I'm gonna plug Ozworks Group inside of that. Is that, to answer your question, Ozworks Group was specifically designed in order to provide resources for exactly what you're talking about. It's got educational material in there, and it's got base level educational material to where if you're just starting out, you're a true newbie, you could get you could go from newbie to PhD with just the video courses that are inside of Ozworks Group. And so I would say that that's probably the easiest path, is to kind of navigate that. And then, because that might define the scope, because you may not know the answer to some of the questions that Chris is talking about. And so if you're truly kind of OZ curious, Ozworks Group is the place to navigate through that. And then based on that, once you kind of formulate your strategy, so we've got strategy calls that we can do through OZ Pros, or, you can, and then that can kind of inform whether you go, you need to join into Jimmy's community, or potentially where you're like, hey, yeah, I want to bite the bullet. I want to set up my own fund. I want to use OZ Pros to do that. And then I need some compliance assistant on going forward. So
I also just want to chime in and say, Jimmy, your podcast is the place, right? If you're looking for, if you're the type of person that wants like to really dig into like long form content, you drive a lot in the car, listen to the podcast, like it's a great way to like do a deep dive. We want to be able to have these different places and programs where people can like either in warp speed if they want to, right? And that's what we really want to do with like our premium access to Oswarp Group. But there's a lot of questions to ask, and it can be complex, but we're trying to like make it as streamlined as possible, depending on what type of learner you are, depending on what you want to achieve. So yeah, I wish I had a more straightforward answer, but I think it's important to know the details before.
It was a loaded question for sure. By the way, Shasta and everyone else, Shaster, excuse me, and everyone else, I did just post links to the resources that we just mentioned, our list of Opportunity Zone funds, OZ Pitch Day, and the Opportunity Zones podcast. And I also put our team email address, info@opportunitydb.com. I got to post the Novogradac Opportunity Zones Resource Center. I'll do that in a moment. Shaster did follow up, by the way, with an additional question. Is there a platform to locate investors for OZ properties that owners are looking to sell? Lots that are not advertised. I don't know the answer to that question, but I think I know somebody who might know. So Shaster, if you email my team, info@opportunitydb.com, I can help point you in the right direction. Ashley, Chris, I don't know if you had any thoughts on that or not.
So I think there's a number of places, right? I mean, where you can hunt. You're looking for target rich environments, and certainly Jimmy's his Opportunity DB is absolutely a place where you could find that. And you say he's looking for lots.
Yeah, that's what she said. She's looking for, let me see. I'm going to put the comment back up on the screen here. Off market lots, essentially lots that are not advertised.
Yeah.
Is there a platform to locate investors for OZ properties that owners are looking to sell?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a number of different software programs that help people to track down like owners of properties like that. And actually, I helped a gentleman that's got a program like that. His name's Scott Fall, and it's called Get Privy is the name of his program. And so programs like that would be kind of where I would say that you probably want to be looking for CoStar, that kind of drill, because you got to find the information about who owns it, and then you got to be able to reach out and contact them. I don't know that there is a repository of that, because by very definition, they're off market. So you got to contact the people directly.
Chris, I don't know if you had any additional thoughts on that or not.
Well, I just dropped a link in, Jimmy, a private chat. I don't know if you can share this or not, but there's a new sort of initiative called OpportunityZoneDeals.com, and we've been talking a little bit about them. Remember back in the day, there was something called what was that called? OZ.
There's Oz Fund Hub, or there was Op Sites also.
Yeah, and there was another one, Opportunity Exchange. So this is a sort of a similar idea or concept that I was just informed of. I put the link in there. OpportunityZoneDeals.com. It's brand new, so this is an initiative that's just taking off. So I think that that's a big piece of the puzzle that is missing. I think we say this all the time, right? Ashley, what's the thing you're more likely to die of starvation or something like that?
You're way more likely to die from indigestion from too many opportunities than not enough. And so that's the key thing, is kind of being able to weed through the chaff so that you can find the wheat. Chris, another kind of thing that I think that would be good for folks to have, and I don't know if you can get it into the chat, but I've got and I think that you created this thing as a type form that kind of goes down what that's not working on that one.
There's a QR code.
My share screen deal through OBS, it's usually I can get pretty cute on it, but we'll just have to put the link to it. We've got a QR code on it, but effectively it's how you can like go through and ask a bunch of questions about, right, like what you're trying to accomplish inside of your OZ journey, and then it can direct you to the right resource. So I don't know if you can drop that into
where
the
does that
chat,
live
Chris.
actually?
What's that?
I'll pull up that link, Jimmy, and I'll send
Okay.
it to you to share.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll post it. Yeah,
it's just
I'll get that up in a minute.
it's a free assessment tool. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, send me that link and I'll put it through the comment stream here. We did get another question in from Brad. Guys, quick question. Have you noticed that the HUD website hasn't been working for months to show OZs? User error on my part? Well,
Nope.
I pulled it up here, Brad. So I'm sharing the stream right now. This is what the OZ map on the HUD website, Opportunity Now, opportunityzones.hud.gov looks like. It is broken, and you're not the only person to tell me this. I think it's been broken for several weeks, maybe a few months. That's right. I don't know. I think maybe they didn't pay their bill from ESRI. Good news is at Opportunity DB, we did pay our bill, and we do have an Opportunity Zones map that is fully functional. This is available at opportunitydb.com/tools/map, and you can kind of, I'll zoom in here so you guys can see a little bit better, but you can essentially just see all the designated areas or the blue shaded regions. If you have a particular address you want to plug in, or maybe you want to look up a city like Rochester, New York. What do you think about that? Chris Cooley, who lives in Rochester, New York. You can see all the opportunity zones in Rochester, New York, and their census tract numbers. And then if you click through to it, you can get a little bit more information on that particular census tract. So we got you covered. The HUD map. HUD lets you down, but we don't let you down at Opportunity DB.
Can I make a quick note about that, educational note, Jimmy, about the map? Just because you have a property in the zone does not make you an Opportunity Zone qualified deal, right? I don't know if, Ashley, I don't want to get into the specifics, but like I know a lot of people have said like, oh yeah, I'm an OZB, but just because you're in the zone doesn't doesn't make your funds.
Oh yeah. You got there's. I was gonna say, it definitely makes you eligible, and you're not eligible unless you're in a zone. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you got to do.
So let me stop you right there, because we just got a question from Here for Good. Asks, do you offer any info on starting QOZB? So please continue.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, that's what we do at OZ Pros. We help people do all of the documentation around this, and inside of Ozworks Group, there's a fair amount of information that's available if you want to kind of learn about it yourself. If you want a shortcut, you want to just go ahead and do it, that's what we do. And the key is that there's 5 tests that you got to comply with. And so it could be any entity, whether it's a newly formed entity or whether it's one that's, already existing. And they basically raise their hand and they say, hey, listen, I want to comply with those 5 tests. And I'm willing to do so. And I want to take capital from a capital gain that's gone through a qualified opportunity fund. And then you can become a QOZB.
I would say use that form that goes through OZ Pros. It was made to, in less than 3 minutes, kind of get you thinking about questions that you should think about if you want to consider this, and also kind of point you in the right direction of what your next step should be. It's awesome, Ashley. I commend you for creating that and putting it out there just so people can really, really step into it quickly. So I don't know. I sent that link, Jimmy.
I didn't even know about it. I'm glad you sent me the link, Chris. I did just post it to the comment stream on YouTube, at least. If you're watching on LinkedIn, I'll have to post it there manually afterward. But I think it got posted to YouTube at least. It's a kind of a funky URL, so I can't read it. It's got a lot of letters in it.
Yeah, I don't know. Ashley,
you're not going to want to push that. We need a tiny URL that then that redirects to it.
We'll get that sorted out next time. Yeah. Gentlemen, I think we have covered all of the questions that we've got. No, we did just get one comment from Jay I wanted to throw up on the screen. Jay says, hey, don't forget about the Bitcoin miners building out energy infrastructure in OZs. And actually, I remember we covered a couple of deals. It's been a few years now. I think it was back in 20 or 21. We had a couple of Bitcoin mining deals where they were setting up Bitcoin mines in opportunity zones as QOZBs, wrapping a QOF around there and then taking an investment that way.
Jay's innocent.
Yeah, so he knows what's going on. So anyways, thanks for the comment there, Jay. Gentlemen, we're approaching the top of the hour. I think it's time to wind it down. But before we go, where can our audience go to learn more about all of our groups. Ashley, I'll start with you. Final word on OZ Pros and OZ Ascent, and where should folks head to learn more?
Yeah, ozpros.com. Or if you want to take the assessment, you can certainly go and follow that link over to the assessment. I think there might actually be another link on our website to be able to get to that assessment. But certainly at ozpros.com, it's got all of the different ways that you can interact with us, how you can join Ascent, how you can set a strategy call, how you can go ahead and get your QOFs and QOZBs started up. So it's fairly easy on that one.
Perfect. Chris, same question for you. Where can our audience go to learn more about Ozworks Group?
It's just ozworksgroup.com. You can check out the plans there. There's the freemium access point is always a simple in-road, no questions asked. Just come on in and start to participate. And my biggest thing, though, would say like that type form, the form that Ashley and team have created is like a super tool. So definitely head over there as well.
Awesome. And for anyone interested in learning more about my brand new mastermind group, OZ Insiders, if you want to join us today, we have a 60-day, no questions asked, money back guarantee, starting at $299 per month, where you can save 17% by joining the yearly plan. You can learn more about our group and how to join at ozinsiders.com. For my podcast audience, listening wherever you are, or watching live, or watching wherever you may be at any point in time in the future, show notes, no matter when or where you're watching this, show notes will be available at opportunitydb.com/podcast. And there we'll have links to all of the resources that Ashley, Chris, and I discussed on today's show. And please, please, please be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or your favorite podcast listening platform to always get the latest episodes. Gentlemen, thanks again for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure.
You as well. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thanks, everybody.